Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you doing,
I'm
sir?
good. I'm just out of the home, 5 hours away from home.
Yeah. You were away from where we at, sir?
Yeah, we're still in Central California. Not Central, but right in the middle of the California, by almost San Francisco.
Nice, nice. I got another gentleman on, Sean, who's a claims cowboy out from Tennessee. He's joining us this morning. Looks like my wife has signed. You got
Yeah, good morning.
there's three adjusters on. This is one. He's out in California. He does. His daughter's actually looking to be a public adjuster. He's a big time contractor out there. He does a lot of different types of work. He's been on a
Very
bunch
nice. Nice
before.
to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Hey, Juan, Sean was going to go ahead and he's got a fire claim that he's been working on. I wanted him to kind of give us a little backdrop on this. He's got a lot of experience in this sort of thing. Considering we're going into the winter, I was going to kind of give him the floor for a minute and let him kind of go over what he's been dealing with.
Sure. Yeah, well, good morning. Thanks for having me on. And we, as a public adjuster, we do claims of every type of peril that there is. And right now we're in the midst of fire season. And it's interesting. I've worked a significant amount of fire losses in my career, and it's always interesting because if there's one peril that policyholders really need public adjusters, it's on fire and water losses. On this particular claim, I was referred, and they had a lithium battery catch fire and cause significant damage to the home. What happened is the insurance company went 3 months without much interaction with their own policyholder. To this day, the date of loss was in March of this year. To this day, an adjuster has never inspected the property. I was involved because the policyholder could see things were going really south. And he was right. When I got involved, I immediately engaged the adjuster and I got their attention and finally got it reassigned to a large loss adjuster. And large loss adjusters tend to be more experienced and competent than the average run-of-the-mill adjuster. And most of my career I was an insurance adjuster myself, right? So I've worked a lot of fires, and they when I was a large loss adjuster, I was required to be on site with. It doesn't matter if the claim was in Knoxville, Tennessee, or Washington State. I was required to be on site within 24 hours of getting the claim assignment. So a lot's changed since I was.
In reference to the smoke, as far as people here. So, in reference to, say, for example, you had because I'd been told about one in particular. I saw it on TikTok where they had been one little. They basically had a small electrical fire in the closet, and the smoke had gotten up into the attic and had spread out throughout the house. And they'd even found, for example, soot back in, pretty much throughout the house. But again, the fire was contained to a small closet in one room, but the smoke was not. In reference to that, as far as a homeowner, this type of year, that would be a very common possible occurrence. With the Christmas trees and all that stuff and whatnot. Um, Besides calling one of us, which would be the biggest thing to do, for sure, get somebody involved that's experienced with dealing with that. What do you think that would be the best thing that they could do on their end right off the bat?
Sure, that's a great question. What I would encourage everybody to do immediately before you even have a claim is to take pictures of each side of their home or business. Also, take photos to store for future reference of everything that is inside their house, every room, and all, and all of the content items. Because what happens is the policyholder's responsibility, and myself as a public adjuster, my responsibility is to prove the loss, to prove what they had, the contents that they had, and the damages. So I would encourage everybody to document their property for future claims. Heaven forbid, should anybody experience a fire. Experiencing a fire loss is one of the most tragic experiences that someone can have. Therefore, once it happens, if you're not prepared, it makes it more challenging. It makes it more challenging to be able to prove the damages. Of course, it can be done, and it is regularly, but that's what I would do. In fact, in addition to pictures, as tedious as this is, I would encourage people to make a contents list of all of the content items that they have in their home, because that's easy to provide that documentation once a claim occurs. Once a claim does occur, the first thing, of course, is to file an insurance claim and cooperate with the investigation process that the insurance company does. So that, and that's really important, to be able to, move forward with the claim.
Yeah, because what I'm figuring is this: is at this point in time, if you had a small fire, you got smoke throughout the house, you're talking, you'd be looking at least minimum cleaning every room, would you not?
Absolutely. Whenever I receive a fire loss from a policyholder, the first thing that I do is engage a hygienist, an industrial hygienist, and what they do is they perform a thorough inspection of the property so that you can determine the exact extent of the soot and smoke and damage in the property. Then the hygienist provides a protocol for repairs. And that's important because it shows how the property can be properly remediated and repaired.
Do you get the insurance company to do that, or I mean, how do those people get paid? For example, that can't be cheap.
Right. Well, yeah. So what I do is that, because of the necessity of them, for example, on this large fire loss that I'm currently working right now, I sent their reports and invoice to the insurance company, and the insurance company paid for their services because it is a necessary service.
So I know there's an adjuster that I recently, and he said one of the top 5 carriers, and it was a fire, and I guess they were refusing to pay for the hygienist, and so I don't know if they had engaged them yet, or if they were wanting to know that they were going to get paid for before they engaged them. But at that point in time, I know that he was being led to believe that the insurance company wasn't going to pay for hygienist and it was this exact one. It was a small fire.
Okay. Yeah, usually I'm able to get the insurance company to pay for the hygienist. Actually, in this particular case with this large loss, is the insurance company wanted to send their own hygienist to to perform the repairs, or not to perform the repairs, but to document the damages from soot, ash, and smoke perspective. And so then the adjuster called me and said that the hygienist agrees with our hygienist, which was good, right? And then I sent them the invoice, and they issued the payment for the hygienist services.
Switching to more or less like a water claim. I've got one. I have one in particular that I'm actually fixing it, and it's kind of an interesting claim. What I've got is they had found their drain lines in a bathroom, and it has it's definitely got some sort of it's black. Okay, so I don't know that it's been determined that it's that. Good morning, Douglas. How you doing, sir? Douglas is a
Hey guys, how's it going?
why don't you give us your little background, Douglas, real quick?
I'm a construction appraiser. I get hired in mediation, appraisal. I document roofs as a non-affiliate, and I do burn jobs and lightning strikes on houses. Good day, everybody.
Good
I'm
morning.
glad you on it, because like I said, what I've got is, so I don't know that it's been determined that it's mold, but it's definitely black in a bathroom around the drain line going underneath. It's a pier and beam structure. And so, and you can see the black. They've already taken the drywall off. It's no doubt there's some sort of bacterial growth going on at that drain line. It probably been going on for a little while. There's no telling. The issue that they ran into was this is a younger person. They're in their 30s, okay, and they had she had started having respiratory issues, and so going to the doctor several times. The doctor actually suggested that there could be an issue with her home and that they needed to have it tested. So they engaged a hygienist to come in and test the home, and to find out if it was livable. And the hygienist report, my understanding, I need to read it. I haven't went through it all yet. States that, yeah, she advised that they evacuate the home. What she found, not only did she find problems where that bathroom was, but she found a worse going on in the ceiling. And what was crazy was it's a vault ceiling, so there is no attic, and there's nothing. It's roof, decking, and then you're at the house ceiling. You're on the interior, and so. It's a metal roof, and what I noticed right off the bat was more than half, if not 2/3 of the foam at the top of the ridge cap is blown out. So we've had an event this year. They've had several events this year that would have easily caused that foam. I think the house is probably at maybe 15 years on that roof. Again, it's a metal roof, so. But with all the battens, the little foam at the top ridge blown out, and then there was none on the eaves at all. I mean, at the edge on either side. And I don't know if it wasn't, at this point in time, we couldn't determine whether or not that it had never been installed or if it just was missing again because of the age of the home. But at this point in time, I'm going to be looking for a cause of loss for that, because they've got, the hygienist is saying they've got mold in the ceiling for sure, 100%, to the point where at this point in time, her recommendation is they gut the whole house. And so I'm having to determine the cause of loss so they can determine coverage for this, because obviously the first thing the carrier goes to is, well, you've got a mold limit. And that's like, okay, well, your mold limit only covers the removal of the mold. I get that. But we have to have a cause of loss for that mold that did just grow on its own. This is South Central Texas. We're not in a, large humidity. Our humidity on average is less than 30%. You know what I mean? It's not one of those areas. There's something it has, and the only thing I could figure was more than likely, because we get heavy torrential rain, we get a lot of wind out here, that they've gotten wind-driven rain blown up underneath that metal sheathing, and it's just allowed that mold to grow between the interior of the house and the metal shielding, and that's why she's getting her readings. Y'all have any ideas on this?
Well, establishing the cause and origin is integral to coverage of a claim.
Right.
So I would look for. You said that the insulation was blown out.
Yeah, on the metal roofs they have on the usually when they put up a metal roof, because where it's ribbed on the end, okay, they put that foam to keep the wind from getting up in there, and then at the ridge as well, because it's for lack of a better term, it's got the little ridges in there. They have the foam that goes up in there, and to keep anything from penetrating up in there. Okay, 2/3 of this is either blown out where you can see, it's hanging there. It's not effective anymore. And then some of it's missing, period. And then on the edge of the roof, going down both sides where they would normally, my understanding, you tell me if I'm wrong, Douglas, don't they put that foam on the edge as well?
In Florida, yeah. I don't know if you guys are all in Texas. I don't know.
Generally speaking, I'm just saying a normal installation on a metal roof, when you put on a new one, they would put that. I've seen it before. It's on the end as well. Well, none of that's there on either side. Okay. And you're talking about a 12-inch overhang. I mean, there's no doubt that the rain and the wind we get here in Texas, that wind driven rain is getting into that space. There's no doubt in my mind. And I can tie a storm event for sure with a date to it if I need. We've had at least 3 this year that would easily qualify to have put that in that space. But I know this is going to be a fight.
I
have, believe it or not, my one of my clinical hygienists is in Texas. His name's Jacob, and within, if I give him some notice, I might be able to get him on this. I might be able to get him on this podcast because he's in Texas. He would probably do business with you and other people that are in there. I know him from, one of my other contacts that I work with here in Orlando, and we met on another podcast. But usually in Florida, when we get something that, I'm going to tell you, we had the conversation yesterday, Kenny, about deposition, and I'm going to tell you the difference between advanced water damage and mold, because there's 2 different things. And when you hire a clinical hygienist, in Florida, even if we involve them in the case, they're not working for us. They're working for the claim, and we can't control anything that they find or say or document. The only thing we can do is assess as a contractor what is going to be covered by the scope or the loss for the claim.
What were you saying, Sean?
Yeah, because establishing the cause of loss and a date of loss is so integral, I would definitely run a storm report to determine the storm activity in the area, etc. Because you have to have a cause of loss before you can get coverage afforded for a claim.
The storm report's easy. This house is 20 minutes from me. I had at least 3 I could pull from. I would have to go back and look, but we've had at least 3 major events in this area for wind and torrential. Well, we had the flood in July that killed everybody. That's here. That's 25 minutes from where I live.
Yeah.
One of the things that I experienced with my with the timing, especially in a metal roof, it's water acting awkward, because remember it has the metal and the water is sometimes the energy themselves. Remember, we can conducting energy through the water, so sometimes same thing with the metal, and sometimes it kind of created magnetism between it, and that created when the water started going up. So it's hard to tell the adjuster, and I would recommend go with Luis, because there's a lot of language that I cannot explain because my English is short. But definitely I can give you the number from Luis Suarez. He's in Texas, and he probably understands more the weather in there. He's he really working for a lot of firms. They're going through lawsuits or defending the customers, or sometimes he get it hired from you guys, their help to understand the claim. And he has experience on fire and smoke, water damage. He has master on ICCRC. He's gonna be one of the. He almost got the gold card for ICCRC, and he really have the experience. I will have the experience, but for me, it's kind of hard to explain because my English is shorter. So, but I know what you're talking about. Basically, in California, it's hard to prove it too, but basically I get approval and with the farmers because San Diego we don't have it storms, and I proved to the insurance that we got Wind River damage, and they said no, it's not in California. I say yeah, so I prove that it's go almost 10 feet up with the pressure on the water and the moisture, and they said no. So when I got all my assets, all my assessment, I prove it, and then to replace the whole roof. But water acting weird. We never understand water, but once you kind of know the materials, I mean, it's easy to go. But I will send you the info from Luis in Texas.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that would make more sense. What you're saying is the water wicked up. And it
Yes.
does that. That's a fact. It'll wick up to the drier material. I mean, we know that for a fact. It happens in drywall. It happens in glue board. We know for a fact that that water wicks up. There's no doubt. Water does not care about gravity. It will find the weakest point and go through there. But once it gets on a material, yeah, it just keeps wicking until it can't do it no more.
And he took the class of science and construction, so he really know what he's saying. And like I say, he worked for a lot of lawyers and a lot of homeowners or same thing APs that it needs more explanation about the stuff that they don't know or they need more help.
This is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at about $250,000 worth of construction coverage. They've got, they'll have some things that'll cover their loss and what have you. But if we're having to gut this whole house, I don't know that there's, that's what I was telling her. At a total loss, I don't know that they can put it back for what they're insured for. I mean, that gets a lot more tricky when you're gutting a house and then trying to have to put it back as to just demo it and start all over again. That's what the husband's kind of a contractor. So he asked me that. He goes, I, for $250,000, I can build a new one. He goes, I don't know that I can gut this and put it back for that. And I'm looking at him, with my 20 years in construction going, yeah, I'm not sure. He's got, like I said, they got vaulted ceilings. They've got faux of the wood beams throughout throughout that area. This is expensive. It's not cheap material on the inside. And then we all know kitchens and bathrooms. You're looking at, that's ridiculous as far as kitchens and bathrooms, as far as gutting one and putting one back. Good Lord. And I prepared them that this probably go to litigation, just the simple fact that it's one of the top 5 carriers, and I don't believe that they'll negotiate a total loss on this. I just don't, because they're going to be arguing the cause of loss.
Are they going to be at the maximum payout? I mean, are they going to be, where this doesn't affect them anymore? Let's say they have coverage for $300,000. The damages are $350. They go $300 and they go, see ya, we're out, because they've given their maximum policy limits.
Yeah, that's what they're dealing with. I think 250 or 275 is where they're at. And I'm looking at the damage to the house. When I write my estimate, I'm going to hit that number easy. I'm going to hit that number easy.
Have they opened coverage yet?
No, at this point in time, I just signed them. I went and talked to them and found out what was going on. And so I just got them. I'm actually going to do my initial inspection. I haven't done it yet. I'm fixed to. I just kind of went through to see if there was anything I could do for them, in reference to as far as helping them, because that's, for as much as I hate it, I try to do that first. I got to make money doing this. I just, I do. I can't do this for free, but I really, stuff like this bothers me when this is a young couple. You know what I mean? They haven't been married very long. They moved into the house, and then all of a sudden she's having medical issues to the point where her doctor is the one that suggested the hygienist. It was her doctor going, "This makes no sense. What you're having, this should not be happening to you."
Right.
And
obviously the first step is to open coverage. And one thing that I've learned a lot in my career, but one of the things that I've learned in my career is, in this day and age, adjusters are not as competent as they used to be. Therefore, they're sitting in front of their computer with their Bible, which is their claim handling guidelines, trying to figure out how they're going to maintain their KPIs so that they get a good review at the end of the year. What I do is I try to help adjusters do their jobs so that they do the right thing. And I do that regularly, right? So once you get coverage open, which you have to prove the loss, right? You have to prove it. Once you get coverage opened, then it becomes a lot easier. Because the option of appraisal is on the table once they afford coverage and provide coverage and things like that, and it's a lot more affordable than litigation, a lot more, right? So I'll give you one example of how I helped an adjuster open coverage recently on a water loss. There's water damage to a home. Washing machine did not drain, and the door of the washer got knocked open, probably due to a soccer cleat, because the homeowner's a soccer coach. Insurance company comes out and denies their claim. This is an standard HO3 policy in the state of Tennessee. They denied the claim using the sewer and drain exclusion in the policy. Some things you just can't make up, right? So what I did was I sent a very detailed coverage analysis email to the adjuster, and his response was okay, well, I need to review this with my supervision and upper management, which is preposterous to me because they shouldn't have blown coverage anyways. After that review, then they decide, after my coverage analysis, they decided to reverse the coverage decision, and so now we're proceeding with damages, right? So it takes a little bit of work, but properly explaining coverage to an adjuster is important, because a lot of them are not trained like they used to be. They weren't trained like I was when I was an adjuster.
Well, and then every now and again, I don't know how often you run across this, because I ran across it more recently. It's kind of disturbing. I'm working with one of the top 5 carriers again, and this is the same thing. It's all 3 of these are water claims, and I worked, formerly as a desk adjuster. I don't know, how much your experience is. I worked 2 years, at the desk, and the arrogance I saw of some of the desk adjusters was really, really shocking. And I give you, it was really bad when they got to 8, 10 years. I think my wife's going to join. She could actually testify to it. Some of them are just trying to do their job, but some of the arrogance was really, really bad. And I'll give you an example. I got one in particular that it's a pressure relief valve that had failed. They've already determined coverage. They already know that the pressure relief valve failed. When they fixed it, this dude sprung leaks all over his house. I mean, when they fixed the valve and turned the water back on, master bathroom, second bathroom, under the sink, I mean, boom, now he's got leaks everywhere. Shut the water off. They start going through the leaks. He's got one of the leaks was in his foundation. They know for a fact that it's in his foundation. They rerouted that, okay? But he's got leaks everywhere. And at this point in time, when I was talking to the adjuster, I could not believe what he told me. At one point in time, he said, well, Ken, he goes, those other leaks would be a different claim. And I went, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Ken, I've been doing this 12 years in the same place. That one would not have anything to do with those other claims. I said, yeah, that is absolutely wrong. I said, in litigation, you would lose that argument. There's no way. When he fixed that, all these other leaks happened. No, that's a direct correlation to what happened. But this guy's got 8, 10, 12 years, and he's arrogant. He's talked down to this adjuster who is a retired colonel. I mean, this homeowner who's a retired colonel. So he's a fairly educated person. They have not opened up any sort of living arrangement. They've got water shut off this house. I'm actually finishing up right now. This guy has bombarded me with bills. It's been interesting as far as that's concerned. But it's been
Well,
he's actually, and he was telling me flat out that the other leaks would not be tied to this, that there would, that would be separate claims. I'm sitting here going, I'm going to meet, I got to meet with these people in the next week or so on this site and go over it. But I could not believe, he's sitting here trying to tell me that
the
when they
the
put
the
water
first
back on, these other leaks would not be directly caused by that.
yeah first of all, the first 21 years of my career, I was an insurance adjuster myself, and adjusters are trained and conditioned, call it brainwashed, whatever you want to call it, but they're conditioned to believe that all public adjusters and all contractors are crooks. And and that couldn't be further from the truth. Of course, they're bad. There are bad players on our side, but by and large, the majority of them are not. But I was trained to think that as well, right? That's number one. Number two, it's very easy because for adjusters to become callous, and they have to be careful because we're dealing with real people, real lives. And so it's easy for adjusters to become callous, and that, which gives the impression that they don't care about certain things, right? Now, if if additional living expenses is owed and the insurance company is not doing something correctly, I personally have never applied my fee to any additional living expenses whatsoever. Just personal belief, I just don't think it's right to do that because that goes directly to the policyholder. But even though I don't take a fee, if an adjuster is not affording ALE, that's a big deal. I am jumping up and down, raising any hell that I can to get them to do what's right. If I have to go up the chain, that is a very urgent matter, and it's very egregious for an insurance company to not afford ALE. I jump up and down, sideways if I have to, whatever I have to do to get them to pay attention, to do what's right, and put the policyholders in a safe environment.
What I've done so far is I've just went into overdrive on this claim. I'm fixing to finish his estimate today, and I'm going to send everything I've got to date. I'm going to dump it on them this morning: the proof of loss, the photo package, the estimate, the ALE. They're going to get it all one smack. Here you go, baby. You're not treating it, and you're one of the companies that flat out go out there. You've been brainwashing people for 50 years. We're going to be there for you. Pay your premiums every month. You see, this is one of them you see on TV after every football game. I mean, it's like, you got to be kidding me. I don't mention names, just so you know, for all y'all. I don't mention the carriers by name. I do not go there. I avoid that with the plague. That's just something. I don't consider it very professional. We all know that we all know. I've told this before, know your contract. The carrier can be a big, in my opinion, the carrier insurance is not the big deal. It's the contract is the big deal. If you get the contract, for what you need to cover you properly, then if they won't do it, then they can hire a public adjuster, or an attorney, and we can force that hand. The problem is the problem is the exclusions that they don't pay attention to. For example, I've got one, and you guys, this will be interesting. You might want to hear. I've got one it's a small insurance company in North Texas, and they have an exclusion. They do not detach and reset solar panels. It is all over their policy. It is clear as friggin' day. They do not detach and reset solar panels, and I'd never seen that before. As far as so obvious, but yeah, no, this lady was, she's looking at a pretty good sized bill to take it off so she can get her roof fixed, and yeah, it's gonna be, huh?
Hey, Kenny, documenting for attorneys on the roofing side, if the attorney finds out that the insurance company or somebody who has a license in the state of Florida to sell insurance, sold insurance to somebody that has solar panels and doesn't have any coverage, they're getting ready to get reported to law enforcement. 100%.
Say that.
Wow.
Say that again.
If an insurance company sells a homeowner a insurance policy that does not cover solar panels and they have them, the attorney is going to go after whoever sold the insurance, and they're going to make a big shit stink out of this, because that is in Florida. If you have solar panels and somebody says, it's one thing if they have proof that the homeowner declined that coverage, but if they were never informed about it and they weren't represented, then that is a fallacy as they look at it in the attorney's side on Florida. I don't know if that's different in Texas. It may be, because, I hear the claims cowboy up there telling, policy information, which in Florida, we don't do. If I'm doing a fire loss, or I find a fire loss, a house gets struck by lightning, I got a public adjuster and I'm hiring David Herring to do my estimate as a non-affiliate, because I want to make the insurance company feel as safe with the information that's being reported, so that as possible. Because in Florida, we just, the laws may be different in some of those scenarios, but I know attorneys specifically that will address, the information regarding those solar panels. I've seen it happen many times.
The question, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm just asking, would it matter if she had them installed? They renew the policy every year. So, I mean, I think she's only had the solar.
If she gets them installed, I tell people all the time when I do installation on solar, make sure that you send this documentation to your insurance company.
Yes.
And one of the other quick things that I'm going to tell you here that's kind of off subject from what all these gentlemen are talking about is, if you're doing documentation for a roof, because that's what my specialty is, you should give this to your homeowner every year and show them no damage every year, and send it to their insurance company. And then when their insurance company recognizes this, then when something does happen and then you come back as the contractor, it's only going to aid the public adjuster or the attorney that's going to be handling the claim for the homeowner if damage does happen, because they're going to be able to say, wait a minute, we sent you where the contractor inspected 2017, no damage, 2018, 19, 20, 21, 20, then it got damaged. Now you don't trust him. Is that what we're understanding? And it puts it on them to diffuse, because they've gotten all these reports of no damage, no damage, no damage, and they accept everything and they never say anything. Then we get damage. Wait a minute, the contractor's wrong. Oh, that is a tactic that is used by some of the, in Florida, with, it may be, the laws may be different than in Texas, because I really don't know the Texas laws.
I got it, Luis. He's under the name Rye Academy. If you want to invite him, he's the one that helps for the assessment and all the Rye Bilingual Academy. He's there. Name is Luis. The name is the Rye. Let me give you the Resto Rye Bilingual Academy. He's the one in Texas. If you want to invite him.
Oh,
you can invite him by that arrow down in the bottom right. You just hit the arrow and then it'll give you all the options.
I've invited a couple others. That's I told that to a roof, one of my lead sources actually. I told him about that, Douglas. He thought that was the coolest thing. He was like, "Oh, you got to be," because they do a lot of roofs. And I told him, I said, "Man, I got a buddy of mine in Florida. This is what he does. He doubles back." He said, "And you have no idea how much of an advantage that would be if you came and said, dude, we just took pictures in March. The storm hit in October. We got coverage. There's no question." That's a really cool thing to do, man. My opinion.
So the Restoration Rye Bilingual is okay. He's coming. He's in Texas, so he can respond your question, and he can help you.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good morning. So, Juan was telling me I was telling him about a claim I have where the it's a vaulted ceiling and I got a metal roof, and the hygienist is saying that there's mold all throughout the house up in the vaulted ceiling. There's no attic space, so it's literally roof, the roofing membrane, the you're on the interior. And so the homeowner is in their 30s, so they're young and they're healthy, and she was having health problems, and she went to her doctor a couple times. Finally, her doctor suggested that she goes and does this hygienist. Hygienist basically tells her to evacuate the house. They need to gut the whole thing because the ceiling is contaminated at a level that's what's causing her health problems. Now I need to verify all this, but the only thing I could figure was being that metal roof, and she's missing the foam from the top, and she's missing the foam from the edge of the roof. That water has penetrated between that area, and what Juan was talking about is wicked up, into that ceiling area, and now has just grown and caused some sort of mold or bacteria that's causing her health issues, respiratory wise, in this relatively healthy young person. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So and this for those stuff, it sounds that is those two possibilities. One, that it's actually water entering from a part of the roof structure, or it's something caused by a stack effect. The stack effect basically, it's the function of a little bit of the thermodynamics and also how water moves. Where if usually on the vault ceilings, especially if it's very high, there's going to be some moisture that goes up and then it goes down. The problem with the roof side is that there's a lot of what's it called? There's a lack of energy resistance, so it's going to condensate. And since you have a metal roof, it's even more prone to condensate in that specific section if there's a change of temperature, especially you live in an area that's usually high humidity, or right now that's like wintertime.
Okay, so let me give you a
might
little
be
bit of let me give you a little bit of backdrop. This just happened over the summer. I live in Bandera. This is in Pipe Creek, so our humidity is relatively less than 30% here. I'm not in a high humid area in South Central Texas. The ceilings are about maybe at its peak, they might be 11, 12 feet. So it's not crazy tall. It's a little one-story building. It was kind of like, at first I thought it was a trailer. I thought it was a double wide trailer, but it's not. It's just a pier and beam house. But it's not high vaulted ceilings. It's only like 12 feet at its peak. And it's, but like I said, I'm not sure what I'm needing to determine is the cause of loss, because the mold doesn't just happen on its own.
correct. No, it doesn't. It needs water.
Where's the water? Right.
So for that,
And so that's what I'm trying to determine.
have you used a thermal imaging camera by chance?
They said the hygienist did,
If because
because they hired their.
what you can do is
The insurance
try to
company
see.
did- Yeah, the insurance company didn't send a hygienist. The homeowner hired their own.
One of the things that I was explaining to Luis, it's now I understand more the case. So I always teaching about here because in California we have a lot of issues because before we don't have a lot of heat in California. Back on this day and these years, about 3 or 4 years, start hitting really bad. So the people start using the air condition more. Even in California, we say a vault ceiling or high ceilings, but it's only 12, 14 feet high. But one of the things that we're learning, we never tested with the Title 24. Title 24 is the air compressor test. So that means sometimes allowed to a little bit the air go inside or doesn't allow to go out. And that's for safe energy. So creating negative earth sometimes is really important because sometimes with the compressor, they can push humidity up there and sometimes just even from inside the house. So when you turn your air condition, it can be moisture inside the air because with the heat and the cold, remember, it created condensation. And sometimes those pressure, even for the air condition, it pushing above. So I always tell people, if you cannot find water sources problem, you gotta find the air leak because sometimes it can create it by the condensation, and with the compressor, it can go up in the attic, and that's special with I'm pretty sure the law is R19, that's in construction zone, because they require now foam, and they require insulation underneath, and also they provide a little space between it, so it can be created kind of space to airflow, so you don't have that issue. And just started in California last year. So now a big thing in California is the Title 24, the energy saver, and that's including air compressor on the house.
So in Texas, how would you argue coverage for this?
So with that, usually it's always excluded, the normal excess humidity and all that stuff. So what you can try to do, if you want to, you can, if you feel comfortable, share some of those photos to see what the temperature is within the whatever he collected, the industrial hygienist, because sometimes you can kind of tell if the energy rating within the spot that they're testing is condensable compared to the area that the temperature that's outside, to see if there's an actual thermal radiant where it's not even capable of actually causing that condensation, or what Cesar mentioned about the Title 24, the energy code. Or you can kind of say, you know what, it doesn't seem it's possible, it's this, it's likely an actual leak entering either through the top area, like through the roof, or what you
That's what
mentioned
I'm-
earlier, where it's entering from one of the sides and it's just wicking through the side sections, and it's just wicking up towards the top area. So that's more or less sometimes where I can tell, like, okay, you know what, there's the difference between outside temperature and the inside temperature means that the insulation is doing its job. So it's not possible that there's going to be issues with what they call convention, or like high humidity, basically, where it just condensates in a specific section. So that's where we start to investigate where it could be possibly entering from, either the very top area, or if it's through the what's it called, the edges, and it's just wicking upwards through the insulation, or the wood, depending what material they have.
Where are you located at?
Me in Texas, in McAllen, Texas.
McAllen. Okay, so yeah, you're down in the valley. Okay.
Yeah.
So you deal with humidity all the time. I ran claims down the valley. Well, I tell you, if none of y'all been down to McAllen, they got mosquitoes like you do, Douglas.
Oh yeah, no.
They got mosquitoes that pick up small children and fly off with them.
Yeah, we have a lot of mosquitoes here, and everybody calls me and tells me, their number one thing is, are there, what's the deal with the alligators? And I always tell everybody, if it doesn't have chlorine in the water, there's probably alligators. But yeah, we got a lot of mosquitoes. One of the things I would like to tell you in my roof experience, I don't have any experience in mold, but I will tell you that on those really small pitches where you have only a foot or 2 feet in the attic, if you do a forced vent or a solar vent that is removing the air, I just feel, from documentation that I've looked at and people I've talked to, that's going to be the best case scenario for proper ventilation in a small confined space, and that keeps it, the air flowing. I think the mold guys would probably agree that's going to be something that's imperative.
One of the things
that I could see.
Yeah, one of the things that we experience in California, we have a lot of decks, and you guys coming in San Diego enjoying the sunset. So basically, you gotta have a deck right there on the hotel, on the house, to view you a nice sunset. But we experience a lot of issues with the moisture, even with the mold, because we got it engineered concrete. But one of the things that we found that in those concretes they start popping out, and sometimes start get wavy on the wood, and we don't understand. One of the things that a lot of people hiring me, it's because I try and explain vapor variation is really going big deal, because like you said, Douglas, the compressor it created inside is a vapor, and a lot of people don't know how to handle it. if you don't have the right ventilation or the size of ventilation, I mean, you got to let the air circulate it, and it all depends the regulation of the city, the county, or the state. But the regulation in California started bringing it up because we had a lot of mold issues, and that's when you get denial with insurance. We have almost 7 years experience with the mold, certified in the state of California in water damage. But mold has been our goal because they don't cover by the insurance, and I have no competitors. But mold start creating a lot of issues with the decking because the air compressor is not enough circulation, and that's what I'm talking about. Title 24.
Yeah, I don't do mold. I mean, if somebody tells me, "Hey, I got mold in my house," I refer them to somebody. If it involves a roof, then sometimes there are cases where the roof was damaged and then there's mold. Most of my mold cases come from burn jobs where the lightning hit the house and then they didn't act fast enough, and then they got mold. They didn't dry out the house fast enough. And a lot of times those are we're just removing anything anyway. So, but ventilation in those little decks in Florida is important. And if I was going to put a metal roof on a low slope pitch roof on a house, I would probably put in additional ventilation.
I'm just trying to figure out how to get this covered, because to me this looks like it's a total loss. And and I mean, for a young couple in their 30s, this would be devastating. I mean, this would be, if they don't have if they're not gonna cover
I had a
anything.
case in California that it was almost $1 million. That's my first mold remediation that I did. It was a lawsuit between the developer, the contractor, and two insurance get involved, HOA insurance, and also I can't remember the carrier, and I don't want to say it, but it was interesting because it was nightmare because I understand all the engineer would, settle down almost 1 inch. The whole building for almost 3 floors is settled down almost 1 inch. So I have to go and jack up all the storage separately and install new bins because all the moisture go inside the buildings and make a lot of mold damage. And you cannot imagine, it was not about, it's considered roof, but it was decking. And I told the guys, I mean, this is the problem, is they're treating this pop-out as a roof pop-out. But as no, I say it's a decking because even if no one can walk in there, I mean, the conditions, the weather, the heads, like the sun, the wind, and all the water, that's when it start get penetrated. And one of the things we're struggling in California is that the air cracks on the stucco, and that's when it start penetrating and get worse. So it's a lot of things behind the scenes that they can be created with the air compression.
Yeah, I ran into that with the windows. I've got one where the windows are all blown out, and I know that the windows won't go back to the pressure test with the bead in the insurance company. That's probably going to have to go to litigation. I don't believe that you would get that. You would get any satisfaction in appraisal with that. You got the wrong appraisal, and he believes that the windows can be fixed with that window bead. Now you got a problem. I've got, from my understanding from the research I've done, it's hard. It's very, very difficult to bring those windows back to where they'll pass the pressure test that they have to do now. And that test is like $8 or $9 grand. But you'll get it stonewalled from the insurance company because they'll flat out tell you that window bead can be repaired every time.
Plains Cowboy, where are you from?
I live in Tennessee, and I'm a licensed public adjuster in 9 states. I'm sorry, 10 states now, and but I also do a lot of insurance appraisals as well. But yes, I live in Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in Florida, and I work Central Florida. I'm an appraiser too. I'm an appraiser and an umpire. I don't get umpire jobs, but I do appraisal all the time.
Yeah, I do. Umpire as well. I actually have not worked in Florida since I mentioned earlier that I was an insurance adjuster for the first 21 years of my career, and I was one of the whistleblowers after Hurricane Ian hit. And when you tell an insurance company for doing something wrong, they tend to not want to work with you. So that's when I got my public adjuster's license and haven't looked back.
There you go. Yep.
Douglas,
In Florida.
John and I talk like you and I do offline quite a bit. He's a really
Oh,
really
really?
knowledgeable fellow.
Yeah. So who's else in here that
morning,
just
gentlemen.
joined in?
Yeah, we got a couple gentlemen. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good. Where are you
Morning.
from?
I'm from Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep,
I
we
got.
do.
Go ahead.
I've been hearing your guys' what you guys do. You guys do claims and roofing claims, or what is it? Any damage claims or?
We got a couple of contractors. Luis is a contractor. Douglas is an expert contractor. Me and Sean, we're public insurance adjusters. Sean's in Tennessee. I'm in Texas. So yeah, it's kind of I try to get a big forum. We work with we're trying to get the insured what they're owed, which is what the insurance company is just refusing to do on every turn that I find.
Actually,
That's kind of
in
where it came
Cincinnati
from.
yesterday.
So you guys deal with any tree claims too? Then any trees that fall on the house or anything like that, or?
Yeah,
I'm licensed
all
in
claims.
Ohio.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, we do. We do a lot of insurance work. Especially in the storms. We were. I heard Ian and besides utility work, I do utility work, storm restoration for Center Point and different utilities. The FPNL and Georgia Power, Duke Energy. But we also do a lot of insurance. And last year we were in that storm that came through and right there in Houston actually. It was like a tornado around May. I don't remember that one. And there was a lot of issues. I know that with claims and not on our end, because we were actually working under HMI, and they do a lot of tree service claims and stuff like that. And but it is hard for you got to fight with the insurance and you got to take million pictures for them to approval for the approval and then you got a bunch of people just riding around and giving crazy cheap prices. You know what I mean?
These get tricky. If it's not on if it's not on something that's insured, and they get excluded very quickly, or they get limited out very quickly. If they're not on a structure, if it's not on a fence, it's not on another structure, it's not on the house. Yeah, the insurance company likes to go very much hands off with trees. Has been my experience for the most part. They're going to pay. Actually, I've argued with them in reference to that. They wanted to up my insurance, and I went, "You're not going to cover. I got 2 acres. You're not covering the other acre and a half that's nothing but trees, are you?" Well, no, then I don't want to pay premiums on
The only cover the crazy part that I don't understand something which it gets me every time. For me, I would say, okay, I've been paying 30 years. How are you only paying for one tree that hit my gutter? And that's the crazy part. How are you only paying for that and the whole, like you said, the whole acre, it's full of trees, and that's the crazy. I don't know. For me, it's insane,
No, I ran into that. I had a claim in Louisiana many years ago, and I felt bad for the gentleman. I mean, the lady had to call in and tell him she couldn't go to work because she couldn't get out of her house. She had 13 trees fell down across their driveway. It took the husband 2 days to clear the driveway so they
Clear
could
them
get their
out.
cars out. And they were $500 per tree, maximum 2 trees. They gave him $1,000. That's all they gave him.
Damn. Yeah, I always tell people it's almost better sometimes for the whole house to be destroyed with trees. You know what I mean? I mean, I it sounds bad, but I mean that's the honest truth.
I've seen that one too. I actually had a gentleman. I felt so bad again. This was Louisiana. He'd cut down. He had 3 great big trees. These suckers were 3 foot round next to his house. He cut down 2 of them because he was like, those are not going to make it. And he left this one great big red oak going, and that sucker split his house in half. I mean, it cut his house in half, all rafters through the floor joists. And when I walked up on the old man, I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at this big 3-foot tree, just cut it in half. And I go, wow. I said, sir, just, start off. I said, what are you expecting from me? And this old man, I kid you not, he went 59.5. And I went, what? He went 59.5. He goes, I got a $1,500 deductible. I think I got 60,000 on this house 61. I'm expecting 59.5. And I went, can you fix it for that? And he went, I don't know.
Damn, that's crazy. No, yeah, we just had a claim. We did a tree actually. I think it was the day before Thanksgiving, and it was a neighbor's tree here in Ohio. By law, whatever's if the tree's on the neighbor's side and if it falls on your house, it's actually your claim no matter what. It's not the neighbor's claim. But that tree almost killed his daughter. His daughter's 11 years old, and it came through her room. So I mean, in reality, when stuff like that, even on floodings or anything, I always tell people, I mean, it is kind of your fault. I always say that because if there's trees and they're dead trees that can hit your house, you should take care of it before it hits. And
They're trying to get in. They're trying to get in Florida passed on the new Senate bill where trees over 35 feet are either cut back significantly or removed. In Florida, they don't want to. They don't want you to grow big, large trees over your house anymore. Or it's going to be very difficult to get insurance.
boy, if that happens, let me know. You can start selling trees for us.
Yeah, I don't do trees, but I do tree on houses in Florida. I'm a contractor, so you're in Ohio.
Yeah, we're in Ohio. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, gentlemen, I'm gonna have to call this a day. I do appreciate everybody. All y'all, we do this every Wednesday at 6 a.m. I invite everybody to come back. This has been probably one of the best discussions we've had. This is a very, very awesome panel. I've done this mainly for the insured. I tell everybody, go on YouTube because I post this on YouTube as well. You can look it up. This is free information every homeowner should need. We are not representing you, but if you need to, reach out to me. My phone number is 830-353-2969. I can get you in contact with any one of these gentlemen that you'd like. Again, this is Kenny the Claim Defender. We are coming to you, Claim Wars. We will be here every Wednesday at 6 a.m. Gentlemen, anybody got anything last to say before we sign off here?
You guys,
No, but
have a good day and a blessed day, man.
Thank y'all very
Hey,
much.
everybody. Nice to meet you.
Hey, everybody.